I am Paul speaking for Free Range with Gail of Gaia. On today's program, Gail welcomes Tanaath of the Silver Legion back to the show. And I seriously can't wait to get into it. I can't wait to get started, so let's do that. Here's Gail of Gaia welcoming Tanaath to Free Range with Gail of Gaia.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia and Free Range, where we graze on wild ideas. And today, the much awaited and highly loved Tanaath is here with me, and we will be talking about the events of the day. And I'm sure she can inform us on what is happening with the Silver Legion right now, and how things are progressing as far as the status on planet Earth. That's a mouthful, isn't it?
That is. Hi, Gail. Hi, everyone. It's Tanaath. Nice to be here again.
I'm so happy that you're here tonight. So many people have asked about you, and I know it's difficult for you to be able to get on sometimes. So I'm delighted to have you.
My schedule is a little bit unpredictable, and I never know whether I'm going to be home or out from day to day. And my partner works from home right now, so only on the days when my partner goes to the office can I really do shows, and that happens to be today. So here I am.
Yeah. So we kind of this was a last minute. Pulled together. So bear with us on that. And anyway, where do you see us at as far as what's happening, current events?
Well, as you know, I don't really like to talk too much about current events because I don't really see myself as a news source or a news analyst or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I'm more, as I've stated before, more focused on actually producing change in the systems, deconstructing and destroying the systems, and getting stuff done, which doesn't always lend itself to talking about it, especially since we are basically in a covert war. I'm also just as much affected by the fog of war as anyone else. Mm-hmm. I'm not omniscient. My people aren't omniscient. I don't have 100% communications fidelity with my people. So sometimes it's a bit of a crapshoot as to whether or not I get accurate information. I do my best. And if I discover something, I will change my opinions or my approaches as necessary. Right now, it's a little hard to tell exactly what's going on, other than the fact that there is definitely a number of different factional moves being carried out, and you can guess at the intent of some of them, but so others are a little more obscure. So yeah, kind of hard to know.
Well, one of the things too about war is you don't want to give your enemy your plan or your game plan, and so that always comes into play when people want to know dates and times and when.
Yeah, I'm sorry, nobody is going to report that stuff to you. Just stop asking. It's not going to happen. It would be a bad thing if they did, because I don't know. It's like people expect that they have a right to strategic information in the middle of a war, and nobody has that right except for the people who are actually fighting the war. And if you want to be privy to strategic information, then it's time to step up as a competent yourself and find a way to get in there yourself and deal with it, because you're not entitled to that, especially not as a civilian.
Exactly. And so it's I guess the biggest thing is people, the unknown is stressful.
Yeah,
and
it is. I
and
understand. I get it. I don't even know where I'll be tomorrow. It can be stressful.
right. So, but right now it's looking like the calm before the storm, and there definitely has been some storm that's been going on, I think, covertly as well. And even without pointing all that out, I mean, there's a lot that's on the internet that people can look up themselves and find out, but just don't expect things to be scheduled and
and nobody's going to tell you what they're doing in the middle of a covert war for control of a planet.
Exactly.
And honestly, one of the ways that they operate is by making sure that the public doesn't believe that any of this could happen. The materialist notion of existence was a psyop, and it was designed so that people like us would say, oh, well, there's no such thing, and then dismiss the fact that anybody is doing this crap because, well, they don't believe it's possible, so why would anyone do this, right? The war on this planet is not just one that is dealing with like physical beings and the material society that we live in. This is also a war that is on the metaphysical level. Magic is an actual force. It is an actual thing that exists. And the people who have been trying to control this planet absolutely make use of techniques that most human beings believe are not real and not possible. The same thing,
like magic. You're talking about magic. Like ritual magic.
Like ritual magic and black magic. There is a lot of that going on. Of course, when people say magic, they start to think either like Dungeons and Dragons fireballs or Harry Potter, and stuff like that does exist off planet. But this is way more to do with the ritual aspects of essentially forcing the Matrix to manifest their will. And not all magic is black magic either, or ritual. Not all ritual magic is black magic. I use magic too, and it is most definitely not black magic.
Okay. Well, people have been taught that by their religions, I think, more than anything, that anything magic
religion is a psyop as well, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Between the materialist approach to science and the organized religion and dogma, these are two of the major psyops that most people who are alive now have undergone conditioning under. So, yeah, they're psyops.
What about the aspect of mind control that goes on in the planet? Has there been any deconstructing of that you're aware of?
There has been efforts. We've been part of efforts to basically erode the underlying field that permits this control, and change it so that those efforts don't have the same metaphysical impact, but they still have a certain degree of psychological effectiveness. And whether or not you can resist that is really up to your own. Whether or not you're paying attention and thinking and acting like a conscious being and actually making an effort to be an active participant in your own mind and your own life, or whether you're just sort of letting everything carry you.
To take off with your thinking or your for one thing, like, people need to recognize when thoughts are their own versus thoughts.
When they're imposed. Yeah. Like if you've been having thoughts that are not characteristic of yourself, consider grounding, centering, balancing yourself, and examining those thoughts. Like one thing it really helps is to develop sort of like a second, the ability to speak with yourself, almost like a second mind. I use this all the time when I'm reading. I have the mind that reads the story. So, here I can give you an example here from a book that I'm reading right now. The older under-captain nodded. I'll have to think about all that. I'd like you to as well. The Galossians aren't going to give us that much of a break. Once they get regrouped, they'll push to get close enough to use siege engines and trebuchets. I'm reading a book here from the Saga of Recluse by Elie Modesitt. Jr., one of my favorite authors. Great books if you want ideas on how to use magic and some of the forces there. But, I'll read that passage and I'll hear it pretty much in my head, just exactly as I read it to you just now. But at the same time, there'll be another part of me that's sitting there discussing it. Like, so how close do they have to be to get to use these siege engines and trebuchets? How do you take them down? I'm having a discussion with myself on the material I'm reading while I read it. You can also do this with your own thoughts. And in fact, it's a very powerful tool to teach yourself how to do this. And if you don't have that inner dialogue, well, it's not all lost. Some people do not have words inside their head, that they do not think in terms of verbal information. That's okay. Put it into whatever form of thought works for you. You can even have images that interact with each other. If you're a visual thinker, I'm aphantasic. That means I have a very, very difficult time with mental images. I just simply don't see them. I use words, right? When people are telling me to visualize something, I will have a verbal description that I'm running through my head of what I want.
That's nice to know, because I'm like that too. I struggle more with images than I do with words. So when I get a thought that doesn't resonate with me, I'm going, where did that come from?
Yeah. I've had a couple of thoughts,
or whatever,
where something has popped up. I've been out on the street just walking, minding my own business, and maybe I'll see someone else, and then a very uncharacteristic thought might hit me about that person, which is, very strange, because I don't normally have thoughts about other people other than, oh, there's another person, right? And then I will stop and I will ask myself, like, where the heck did that come from, right?
Exactly.
And then I'll analyze it, and I'll look at the processes where it came from. Developing the second mind that you can use to sort of interrogate and analyze whatever's going on in the primary part of your mind. It is a crucial skill. And I would say, that if you're going to be engaging in any of this work, you absolutely 100% have to develop the second mind and use it all the time, or you will never be able to navigate this mess.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you get it, Gail, but this is critical information.
Yes, and we have an effect on the collective now too.
We do. There is. We have been, like, everybody always asks me, well, what's the Silver Legion been doing? What's the Silver Legion been doing? Right now, what we've been focusing on is, number one, stopping mass casualties of any sort. So we don't want to see any civil wars. We don't want to see any major wars. We're trying to cut down on sabotaging and stuff like that. That's, the material concerns about what's going on. We are trying to intervene there in as much as we can. But further to that, and more importantly, we are trying to change the field conditions which dictate what is and is not real on planet Earth. Because while people here tend to take the material reality for granted, it is not a natural, normal thing that just exists in and of itself. It is something that has been carefully produced and maintained by a system that basically takes humanity's potential to change reality and then feeds it into another system which says what can and can't be permitted here, and then uses that power that it harvests from us to impose this ultra mundane reality on us.
Yeah, so there comes a point when people need to realize that we have other beings besides humanity that are influencing or attempting or controlling the matrix and the control construct. And that's one of the things that we're trying to break down piece by piece. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that a large portion of what the Silver Legion and myself personally have been doing, my personal mission has been dismantling this reality control system. It has to happen in a controlled fashion, though, because I can imagine that, I've seen the other timelines, I've seen the other realities where it doesn't happen in a controlled fashion, and it's really awful. Anybody who's ever had visions of what they might term the psychic wars, yeah, some of us have had those dreams, some of us have had those visions, and some people here who've just heard me hear that term will go, yeah, we don't want the psychic wars. We don't want that.
Speaking of timelines, are we on a positive timeline right now in spite of
we are on an unknown timeline. It is not a predetermined timeline. And that means that it is also the timeline that we know has a chance to succeed, because all the predetermined timelines ended. We can look at them. They appear to be running parallel to us. If you're really, really retarded, pardon my language, if you're really, really stupid, you can go to one and thus seal yourself into a dead-end road. I don't recommend that, by the way. But yeah, we do not know. This timeline is literally an unwritten future. It is happening in real time, and we are doing it now. The moment somebody time travels, they're leaving to or coming from another timeline and entering into this unknown one, or abandoning this unknown one for, for a road with no, a dead end road.
So why is that? Why did this, for a while we used to talk, we were on like there were three different possibilities, and there was only one that out of the three that actually had a positive ending, and many of the timelines out there do not have a good ending for humanity, and we certainly don't want that this time around again. But not knowing where we're going, is it that dependent on the collective waking up?
We don't know all of the factors that are dependent. In some cases it's personal, which means that the factors on whether or not you personally make it through this and enter into the timeline that has a future depend on you. Regardless of what happens for everyone collectively, your personal trajectory depends on you.
So
and this means that even in the midst of chaos, with a world where everything's crumbling and people are, and like things are just objectively bad, you can manage to preserve your own self in those circumstances and see to it that you have the best possible outcome. And anybody within your, I guess you could say, your wake, if you think of yourself as a pebble thrown into the pond, everybody in your ripple also has that chance to come with you.
Okay. Wow. So does that mean that people should always keep a positive outlook on?
In as much as you can. Like, as a person who has undergone the feeling of hopelessness and depression and helplessness, in as much as you can, understanding full well there will be times when you hate what's going on and feel like nothing can be done. But those are always transitory, and that is always illusionary. Right?
Right.
You have more power in the situation than you really think you do.
So we all have a purpose in life, correct?
Yeah, but it's up to you to determine what that is. Your purpose in life is determined by you and you alone. Nobody else can or should be responsible for determining your purpose or telling you what to do. If you are not self-directed, you are a slave. You are property. And then at which case you have to ask yourself, why is it that I exist? If all I'm going to do is be an object for something else to use, regain your own agency, regain control of your own self, regain your own mind, stop being a passenger that's just being towed along in the wake of everybody else's pebble, and be your own pebble.
Right.
Once again, I know you know this already, Gail.
Yeah. I just like to hear you reiterate it, and for people to remind themselves of it over and over again, because it's very important, especially now, because people are being presented with things that could actually result in them maintaining their slave status.
Yes, or getting worse in that slave status.
Exactly. Because some of
You
the
have
things
to
that
consciously negotiate what's going on here. The world is getting crazier by the minute, and it is not going to start going back to normal. There will never be a return to the normal of the last 50 years.
Thank goodness for that. I mean, people say that
it's
they want
got
to go back to normal. No. Not once you understand and become aware of all the things that have been going on that are not in our best interest as humanity.
Yeah.
There's a control construct, a slave construct that we have been involved in. And now the information is coming out. You have the opportunity to research and get the information and understand it and take action against it.
Yeah, and action does not always mean grabbing a sign and storming some political hotbed.
Yeah, that frequently doesn't do much good anyway.
You got to get smart about this, right? Like people, number one, you got to be an active participant in your own life and your own head and your own mind. You can't just sort of exist and let yourself be pushed around like a feather on the breeze. You have to be an active participant. Number two, you have to understand that the world is not normal, never was normal, and will never go back to what it was in the last 50 years, period. Number three, you have to take those other two facts and you have to put them together, and you have to understand that you're going to have to be an active participant and an active negotiator in what's going on here. You're going to have to find your own path through. That means wake up, pay attention, get control of your own mind, start thinking about in terms of survival and what you have to have in order to live and what you can and can't live without, and stop expecting the world to act normally, because it won't ever again.
And stop
Otherwise,
relying.
if you don't do this, you can end up dying in really stupid ways, getting imprisoned, getting oppressed, because you were operating on the assumptions that the world was a normal, honest place, and you opened your mouth in the wrong place and got arrested, right? Like, these are dangerous times. These are extremely dangerous
Sometimes I worry
times.
about the shows I do, Tanaath.
Yeah, I do too. And this is one of the reasons why nobody has ever seen my face on a show. And this is one of the reasons why I don't publish under my physical world name, because I knew long ago that it was going to get bad, and I didn't want to ever put myself into those vulnerable positions. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse before it's better. Whether or not you are living in whether or not you're able to attain a haven that you can live in, or whether you're just a leaf swept up in the big leaf blower that's hitting society right now, all depends on you. It all depends on how much personal control you can regain over your own self, because your ability to regain control over your own life stems from your ability to control yourself. This is not the time to be stupid. This is the time to do everything in your power to get smart, get active in your own head, think about stuff, and be clever. Clever beings survive. Stupid beings become lamb chops for the bad guys. Don't be a lamb chop.
Exactly.
If you're a game player, don't be a feeder.
I want to say something in regard to myself, in that I feel that I'm currently fulfilling my purpose, and that is a messenger bringing forth truth from various guests that I bring on, and things that will help people get through this time. At the same time, I always want to remind people that I do need your support in that regard as well. So it's important that those of us who are sticking our neck out there and putting the truth out there, we could easily become targets. So be aware of that, and know that we can, they can lie about us. They can say all kinds of things. And I just want to encourage you to be supportive and encouraging, because otherwise, you wonder why would you do this? But I feel like I'm fulfilling a mission here. I came here to help, And this is the best way that I know how. I also am very actively thinking about helping people with going back into doing some nutrition consulting. Although that may not be a main concern for people right now, I think it's very important in a number of ways. And we don't have to get into that.
I'd say it's pretty important, considering you can protect yourself from a lot of the nasty things with proper nutrition. And,
that is so true.
And proper health behavior. Like my partner and I just got finished doing a month of intermittent fasting. And we were doing extremely low calorie intermittent fasting, about 1,000 calories a day. On the weekend, we would eat more than that, usually around 1,500 to 2,000. And it was also low carb. So
that is something that I highly recommend, intermittent fasting. And of course, as much organic food as possible, because we are poisoned by GMO and a lot of chemicals in a lot of the processed foods. They've also recently...
And if you can't afford organic, if you're like me, because like I'm running on a really low budget here. But
I have a hard time too.
And you can't afford organic, learn which ones are the force multipliers. Because some things really don't matter if you get them organic or not. Like if you can afford an avocado, it doesn't necessarily have to be organic because it's got that thick shell.
Exactly. And
but if you're going to be eating a strawberry, you want those things to be organic because
that has to be organic. Yeah. Yes, if you were to see a regular strawberry versus an organic strawberry, there's a list about this long of all the chemicals used on strawberries. So certain foods, and there's a program called the Clean 15. And the Dirty
I've heard
Dozen.
About that. And there's the Dirty Dozen as well.
You can look those up online, and you will find a list of foods. There are some foods that are, they're not necessarily organic, but they are listed as these are used a lot of chemicals on this group of foods. And on the Clean 15, you don't have to worry so much. So those would be the foods you could concentrate on more. There's also something that I'd like to mention while we're on this very topic, is the fact that during the past, not the Trump administration, but the previous one, there were a lot of corporations that were involved in putting nanotech in all the liquid products and all the kinds of foods that you really shouldn't be, in drinks that you shouldn't, anything liquid in particular, that it would be best if you weren't utilizing anyway. But I'm looking into ways that we can detox from that, because that's also something that's being used to advance this transhumanistic agenda that's going on.
It's a concern for me, but again, there's a lot you can do if you, once you gain control of your mind and you gain control of your own power, you can use frequency, you can use your own projective force to neutralize some of those things. And that's everything operates on frequency.
Yes.
One thing you can do when you say a blessing over a meal, for instance, or you thank the spirits of the living things that gave their lives for your meal, you are imparting a frequency into that. Water is extremely powerful. The work of Dr.
has been contaminated.
Yeah.
Yes.
First of all, get as clean water as you can get. If it's coming out of a plastic bottle, there will be microplastics in it, at the very least. I use a Berkey. A Berkey is not the only thing.
I like
it's not.
Berkey.
It is not the only good filter out there, but it is for its price, you get it for a long time, and it never needs power or anything like that. So, I got a Berkey years ago, and I'm still on my elements that I got with the Berkey.
And if you're in a big city, you're going to want the extra fluoride remover as well.
Yeah.
But if you're not in a big city, you probably don't have to worry about that as much, depending on where your municipal water supply comes from, or if you have well water or what have you. Exactly. All those things make a difference, and those are the kind of things that people need to take a look at, and those are the kinds of things I include in like a nutrition assessment and so on.
But one of the things about water is that it holds frequencies really, really, really readily.
Yes, and you can write you can write love on your water, and it actually absorbs the frequency of that word, if that's how you want to put it.
Yes, and
that vibration.
Dr. Emoto's experiments have shown this really, really well, and I've also done experiments of my own.
Have you?
One of the things about water is that it readily forms
It has memory.
Yeah, it has memory, and it forms what they call structured water, very, very easily and very readily under any kind of frequency. And basically what the structured water does is it acts like a little crystal within the water that creates more nucleation sites so that all the other water around it assumes that same structure. So if you pour yourself water, and the cleaner and more pure the water, the better. I drink out of a glass mug. It's actually a Coca-Cola mug, but I don't think there's ever been Coca-Cola in it. It's only my
yeah, we don't want Coca-Cola.
Yeah,
high fructose corn syrup and all kinds of nanotech.
Yeah, nasty stuff. But the mug is glass, and glass is nice because it's non-reactive and it doesn't leach into your water. So I got my Berkey water and my glass mug, and I'll pour it in it, and then I will meditate on the water, and I will put the frequencies that I want into the water, and I'll put my hands up around it and raise my ki or my chi and flow it into the water, and I will think of the frequency or the effect that I want out of it, and I'll imbue it in the water for about 5 minutes, and then I drink it, and the flavor changes. It can, depending on what I'm putting into it, it can become sweeter, it can become bitter, it can become sour. Sometimes it changes in the mouthfeel of the water. Sometimes bubbles form on the side of the glass that don't normally form. Sometimes it looks cloudier. Like, depending on what you're doing the water changes, literally just changes right there. And then when I drink it, I get some of the effect that I was putting into it. And it's very effective. And you can do this too. Anybody can.
And I can't help but mention this. I use this particular water, and it's the only, I don't buy bottled water. I have the Berkey, but once in a while I get some this water called Wata. and the reason I do that is because it has fifth phase water infused into it, which is actually a gas. And I also know that the people that the inventor would never allow any nanotech in the product. So it does a great job of hydration, and it's a really good water. But anyway, water is critical. We can live a lot longer without food than we can without water.
Yep.
So the nature of your water is very important, and making sure that it's pure and clean and so on. And when you think about it, what are we, about 80% water?
Pretty much, yeah. And that's why, one of the reasons why juicing is such an effective health tool is because the water that comes out of vegetables is naturally structured. And when you juice them, you keep the structure. The structure doesn't get destroyed. So when you're drinking that, you're not just getting the nutrients and the minerals, you're also getting the structure. And that structured water then enters your body and acts as nucleation sites for the crystallization of the waters in your own body.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the water or the juice from the fruit contains more of the fifth phase of water too, that you're able to absorb much quicker, because when it's not in that phase, your body has to do a conversion process.
Yep. And you can also make it yourself.
And the other thing is, if you buy the juices already made, they have pasteurized it and irradiated it.
Yeah, the moment you heat that water, you're changing the molecular crystallization of it.
Right.
So this is why the best thing you could do if you're juicing is juice it fresh and then consume it immediately, because the longer it sits around, the more the
nutrients deteriorate.
Not only that, but the structure of the water deteriorates as well.
Right. That's so important. That's another reason why I encourage people to move to farmers markets if you at all possibly can, to watch for where they are and go with, find your farmer that, doesn't believe in adding all kinds of pesticides or herbicides and that kind of thing, and talk to them and you can learn to build a relationship there so that you can buy higher quality, more nutritious food. But at the same time, if you can grow any of your own, that's ideal. But a lot of us aren't in a situation where we can do that.
Yeah, I can't.
I can't either. I live in an apartment building, so it's just not possible to do it. And I don't have a yard because I'm on the second floor. And
I got a balcony and strict laws or bylaws, right? So
So
if I try to grow anything, and
But I found a farmer markets on both ends of the town. One's in another town, but there's farmer market, and you can get fresh farm food, and you can't beat that, really.
Yep, and I would encourage you, go to, if there are farmers markets near you, go to farmers markets, make relationship with the farmers. If there's something that you need, or you're concerned about where your meat comes from, because
very
honestly,
important there.
Yeah, very important. The antidote to factory farming and all of the crimes against nature that occur with a factory farm system.
Oh my God, yes.
And
I've seen it firsthand. I have.
I have too. It's awful. Like cow-calf operations are horrific. Confined animal feeding operations are horrific. The less confined, and like the meat that results is unhealthy, because those are animals that have been fed garbage and living in unhealthy circumstances themselves.
And they will have been fed highly GMO foods, because they feed them out for the last 3 months on
corn
usually
and soy.
GMO corn and soy, both of which are the top 2 GMO foods that they convince
some of
farmers
the nastiest thing that you can put in a living thing. And everybody these days thinks that plant-based is the way to go, but you know what? Plants aren't necessarily good either. And if you're monocropping plants, that's just as destructive to the environment as confined feeding operations are.
I've seen vegetarian diets be very unhealthy too, depending on what they,
Oh yeah, I knew a vegan who lived off potato chips.
That's what I mean.
Healthy.
That's exactly what I mean. I have seen examples of that, and it's almost like you can actually, like you were saying earlier, pray over your food, bless your food, and thank the animal that you may be consuming, if you are consuming meat. And as far as vegetables are concerned, just like what we were talking about,
thank the plants as well. You're killing a plant to eat it too, right?
Exactly. But it doesn't have a nervous system. It's not.
Yeah, it doesn't have a nervous system, but still,
I don't see it in quite the same category, but it definitely, I agree with what you're saying. Just bless your food in general, and no matter what you eat, because it is a good idea. It's a good habit. And we're very powerful beings. We just don't know it.
Yeah, we've been shoved into this context where we've basically been programmed and lied to about what we are and what we can do. And most of us just take it on faith that what we are told about
would automatically be the truth.
Universe and ourselves are the truth.
Yeah, that's what's gotten us into so much trouble.
It is. Never take it on faith. Always find out for yourself if you can.
Yes, and that goes for healthcare too. I mean, you might not be able to become an expert in the field, but you can look stuff up too, and you really need to, and that's especially important now with what's going on with the shot. It's not what people think it is.
No, for one thing, it is not a vaccine.
Exactly.
It's actually a chemotherapy.
Exactly. That's how I see it too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
actually,
like giving
I had a conversation with my doctor, because I have several autoimmune conditions back from most likely triggered from shots that I received in the past.
Exactly. Same here.
Before,
like
when my mom didn't know what was going on, or when I didn't know what was going on, because I got used to get my flu shots.
Well, even our parents believed
I was brought out with all the other neighborhood children when the public health nurse came through in the 80s to give us all jabs, and we all got, they set up in the Mason Lodge basement, and we all got jabs.
Yeah, I remember the polio sugar cube.
Yeah, the Salk vaccine. Yeah, those are actually vaccinations. What's being produced now for the COOF is not. It is a chemotherapy. Right. And I spoke with my doctor, and I'm like, we're going to have this conversation sooner or later. I said to him, I'm not an anti-vaxxer, because
I am.
I know you are, but I will tell you this: if I got bit by a rabid animal, you wouldn't tell me not to get a rabies vaccine, because
that's true.
That
I have
has a
to give you
99%
that.
chance of killing me.
I don't know if that. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on the thing. Like, as somebody who's frequently on a farm with rusty barbed wire, I get my tetanus shot when it's due.
Well, that one I would research more too, because there's some nefarious history on that as well.
I know, but I'd rather have that and deal with the consequences of that than tetanus. And tetanus is a risk. Where I live and what I do, it is a risk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. It's one of those things about making.
But there's no reason why they can't clean those things up too, because there's no reason for it to have MR5 or some of these other substances in them.
It comes down to, what am I willing to what am I willing to give up, or what cost am I willing to pay in return for that protection? And in the case of something like rabies or tetanus, the return on investment, or the risk versus reward, is worth it to me personally, but I would never tell somebody else,
Same here. Just make sure you're fully aware of what you're doing.
And both my doctor and I agree that the potential risks of the quote unquote COVID vaccination, for me personally, are not in any way, shape, or form justifiable to actually getting it, right? Like the reward of potentially being asymptomatic, because here's another thing: the vaccines, quote unquote vaccines, the treatment that they're trying to make mandatory. Sorry. Yeah, you won't be able to put this one up on
That's YouTube. Okay. I know we won't be able to put this up on YouTube.
You'll be able to put it up on BitChute. I know it's a little touchy with its upload, but it's
Utah Gun Exchange is good, and so is
sorry about that. YouTube
there's several other platforms now that are
the vaccination. If you look at the actual product documentation that's been made, does not prevent transmission, does not prevent infection, and is not actually an immunization.
Exactly.
What it does is it makes it so that you personally do not experience severe symptoms. Supposedly. Like, if we're going to take them at their word, then that's what it does.
Chances of a cytokine
there's a cytokine storm, or there's, like thrombo.
And if it doesn't happen right away, it could happen down the road the next time you're exposed to something,
things
because
like
you have allowed
and other issues, and like the number of people, like I'm seeing reports of people going down.
It changes you genetically.
Vaccines. Not even that, but it creates an inflammatory state in the body, and that's what's causing a lot of the adverse reactions. And if you already have an issue linked with inflammatory states, like an autoimmune condition, guess what?
Which most of us have because of the previous.
Yep.
Yeah, because of the previous vaccinations
you are almost
we have.
guaranteed to have some form of adverse reaction. So, yeah, my doctor and I agreed that unless it's absolutely necessary for some reason, we're skipping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's good. You have a good doctor. I don't even go to the doctor.
Unfortunately, it doesn't stop the rest of the world from start making these things mandatory and telling us that we can no longer travel freely or move unless
that's very disturbing. That's got to change.
This is what's concerning me, and I'm thinking that this might just be one of the break points that we have to say no. Triggers people to stand up, because you know what, if just a few of us stand up and say, F off, no. It's not going to be enough.
Mm-hmm. Now, we have to work together as a collective.
We do. We have to hold our ground. We have to stand up, and we have to refuse. Just flat out no. But we can't do it stupidly, like putting on stupid costumes and prancing around in front of the camera and showboating, or getting yourself arrested in isolation is not going to. Yeah, it's just going to get you taken out. It is not going to make a statement. Don't do anything that will cause the normies to be able to smear you, because you're not going to be effective if you're in jail and nobody's coming to your defense and they're all laughing at you and calling you stupid, right?
Yeah.
Be aware that we're in an information war, and the people who have control of the reins of the information machine are against you, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah, and they're all corrupt.
And they are masters at manipulation.
Yes. And that's a very big concern. But this synthetic messenger RNA is actually considered a medical device, which really kind of blew me away when I first heard it. And it's getting your own cells to create a pathogen, and that's why when you're introduced to something again later down the road, if you survive the first shot, and there's a lot of people who haven't.
Yeah, and I would caution people when you're talking to normies about it, don't go immediately for the most outrageous stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? Like if you're meeting with, Joe down at the supermarket and you're talking about the coof and the jab, you don't go immediately for there's luciferase in it because Joe is going to immediately dismiss you as a nut. You're going to go for, I'm really concerned
even though there is.
Even though there is. You reach for the stuff that is close. Like, go for the stuff that's close to them that they're already capable of understanding. Don't go immediately for the wacky shit, right? Stuff like, I'm a little concerned about the PEG, the PEG, propylene glycol in it. And the fact that it has not been approved for internal use in any way, and that
what happens if you would feed what would happen if you would give your dog, for example,
if you gave your dog antifreeze, to drink? I've known a few people whose dogs or cats died because they drank antifreeze.
Apparently it doesn't taste bad or something.
No, it's sweet. Imagine. Right? Like polyethylene glycol is a very sweet compound. In fact, they use it as a sweetener in toothpastes sometime and other things, right? In small amounts, it's probably not going to hurt you too much, but you shouldn't have any of it really. And you definitely shouldn't be injecting it into your body because ingested versus injected your body can handle it differently. For instance, you can eat a cheeseburger and you'll be fine, but if you inject a cheeseburger, you'll be dead.
That's a big difference there.
That's a big difference.
The shot is is where some real damage can occur, and it's that envelope.
Start with the low.
And people don't know when that's going to break down either.
Start with the low level information that actually relates to things that they can understand. Don't go immediately for the nanotech. Don't go immediately for the luciferase. Start with the PEG, the polyethylene glycol. Start with, the fact that this is, the delivery method hasn't been approved yet. Start with the fact that autoimmune reactions are a concern. If you are a person who has any kind of autoimmune, eczema, allergies, anything like that,
you're at risk.
Yeah, you're at risk. Chances are you'll have an adverse reaction. And if you are forced for some reason to have to take this, follow the advice of people like Dr. Mercola. And the best way to deal with it is to keep yourself as low in inflammation as you can for as long as possible. Intermittent fasting, low-calorie keto for a month after the shot will do a lot to help pad you from the potentially harmful effects. And then I would also recommend that if you're worried
I recommend Dr. Judy Mikovits because
that's where he got his recommendations from. Mercola got it from Mikovits, but I couldn't remember her name. Thank you.
Yeah. I just did a show with her, and I have it on the Utah Gun Exchange.
Good.
You really need to watch it. You'll like it.
I will probably have to do that because she's right. If you have to have this, say for instance, your livelihood and your ability to stay alive relies on you getting a mandatory shot, then
I would quit.
Follow her advice. Quit if you can, but not all of us have the luxury. I understand.
But they also are violating not only your constitutional rights, but they're also violating the Nuremberg Code. And you need to become familiar. You become familiar with those kinds of things because you can take a stand. And you can be wrongfully terminated and you can fight it. But, not all of us have the resources to do that. But they depend on that too. That's why it's always better for people to work together in groups. Like if you were a healthcare worker right now, what would you do?
I'd probably be looking at getting a different job. Like I'm looking at finding a different line of employment right now because it ain't going to be too long before they require it out of people in working in education. And I know for a fact that it is medically harmful for me to take that jab. So I would rather not have to deal with the, intermittent fasting, low carb, keto for a month. And I'd rather not have to go through, have to do the meditation to deactivate it, because you can deactivate some of the harmful stuff with meditation and control of your own.
That's where the power as our being is really comes into effect.
And you can do it before they stick that thing into you too. You can leverage your energy and your frequency to neutralize a lot of the compounds in there. There will be some effect. The matrix always demands anything negative have a consequence, right?
Okay, here's the thing that we're not thinking about too, that when it comes to this synthetic medical device being shot into you, is that, does that give the people who created it a patent on you? Do they now own you? Think about that.
I don't know about that. I don't have any information on that one.
Yeah, I know. It came up yesterday, but it certainly is something to think about, because that's how they did the GMO seeds.
Yeah,
you can't
only in a strictly earth legal context would that ever be the case, because in terms of natural law, no.
Yeah. Well, see what their plan, their diabolical plan is, that have the people, because it's been put in our food and water and skies, then you get the jab, you just increase it enough so that they eventually want to hook you up to the cloud.
Well, yeah, we know about the transhumanist agenda, and we've been speaking about it, against it for years.
Yeah. And they're still trying to move forward on it. But there's a lot of people. I just feel like there's so many more people now that have woken up and that are, helping to get the information out there, to make changes. It's even happening at the level where it wasn't happening before. And I know we don't want to get into politics or anything like that, but there are people that are standing up and making a difference. And
yeah, there are. We remember that, I know you know this, Gail, but it bears repeating. There is no guarantee for the enemy that they win. It is not predetermined that they win. We can fight back, and we are fighting back, and we will fight back. So just the fact that they're trying this doesn't mean that they are going to succeed. It doesn't mean that if they get some success that it's a unilateral success, and it doesn't mean we can't take them out later, right?
Yes.
Do your best to be smart, play safe,
there
fight
you
cleverly.
go, right there.
Yeah.
And find out while you can, and try different search engines too, because sometimes we're not, we used to always tell people, well, do your own research, because once you do your own research, then
Yeah.
But
do what you can, because I understand it's an information.
There's different search engines out there too.
There is, and I wouldn't recommend DuckDuckGo anymore because Google bought it. By the way, I've been shadow banned on Google. If you do a search for the Silver Legion, you will find only stuff about American fascism from the 40s. And no, we are not in any way associated with fascism. I mean, we are a bunch of.
I had a hard time finding it. I was checking it just,
you can still find it on DuckDuckGo, but not for long. I've been shadow banned off Google.
I'm shadow banned too. My free range YouTube and all that kind of stuff.
I can imagine that.
Be the last one to come up on any kind of search,
Yeah.
But,
I think I still show up on Bing.
Oh, who owns Bing? Do you know?
Microsoft. So they're not much better, but they're not shadow banning me at least.
At least not at this point.
Thank God I was smart enough not to tie my income and my well-being to this work, or I'd be starving to death right now.
I kind of did that to myself in the past, I think. But anyway, I can still do individual consults and things like that. And I just haven't opened myself up to it yet, but I'm planning on doing that.
Yeah, I'm doing what I can right now.
Can't depend on contributions.
Divorce my income from other people's control. So.
Yeah. And I just can't envision myself working for Walmart as a greeter or something like that. And I'm not knocking people that do it, but I would drive me crazy. But anyway, and sometimes you find as you get older, the opportunities don't come forward as readily.
No, they don't. I've been trying to get work in administration, and I feel like somebody painted me with the stuff that you spray to keep raccoons away from your garden or whatever.
Exactly. Once you start hitting those 60s, too, it just, even in the 50s for that matter, but 60s even worse. I can't imagine what 70s is. But anyway, so that's all a major concern. And I'm working in also getting some affiliate links from different companies that I know have very high quality products. You don't make much that way, but every little bit helps.
In keeping with the long-standing tradition of bringing you the very best in information, entertainment, and health-related products, Free Range with Gail of Gaia is pleased to bring you the gold standard in CBD products and resources. Free Range is partnered with CBD Sedona, a full-service CBD resource for the best products and information available. Just visit cbd.gailofgaia.com. That's cbd.gailofgaia.com to learn how to support your health, wellness, complexion, and also support Free Range. CBD is no joke. It's a powerful addition to your wellness routine when accompanied by a consultation with a real CBD professional. Sure, you can find CBD at a smoke shop, hardware, or a grocery store, but can you get the valuable information on CBD use or the quality you can get from people where CBD is all they do? Probably not. Visit cbd.gailofgaia.com. That's cbd.gailofgaia.com today to learn more.
Yeah, and if it can help somebody else out, then that's also nice too, right? I mean, we have to stick together in times like these. I know a lot of people are thinking of stuff like, well, what if we put together, a farm where multiple families and multiple people can.
Oh yeah, I would love to be able to do that.
A lot of people are having those thoughts, and if it's within your ability to secure, then I'd say go for it.
I have a few Zim notes, and I'm kind of waiting to see if anything ever happens in that regard, because I could do a great humanitarian project, but if you don't have the resources, you can't do much.
Yeah. And like the people who say, move out, buy some land and move out into the country and basically become a survivalist. Well, that's great if you can.
Yeah. Right now, easier said than done.
Yeah. I have $40,000 in student debt, and my assets consist of a 2011 cop car and a computer. So good luck getting land on that kind of thing, especially since my income is so sporadic. Yeah.
Same here.
It ain't attainable.
That's what happens to mine. I mean, I might be doing fine for a while, and then all of a sudden I have nothing. And when I do it, if I worry about next month's rent.
Exactly. If I fell into $1 million, would I do it? Yeah, but the chances of me falling into $1 million are slim to none. So I'm finding solutions that are within my grasp, while attempting to find ways to improve things. Right.
Exactly.
Dream achievable. I grew up in the 80s and they told us dream big, become whatever you want. And no, dream achievable. That's a little more easy to secure. And you're less
definitely. I just really felt misdirected in that regard. And probably with me, it was more in the 70s. I don't feel like, I don't think I was counseled or helped in any great regard. And I'm glad I did what I did. It's better than nothing. But if I had it to do over again, I might do something a little different. But that's always easier said.
Yeah. I try not to second guess myself too much because, when I look back at my life and the places where I could have done things differently, like if I'd gone into, say, engineering, like my father had wanted instead of sociology, then I might be employed now and I might have a lot more money now. Maybe, engineers were hit by the 2008 crunch and the 2012 crunch as well. But then again, would I have been able to make the spiritual advancements that I did? Would I have met my partner and spouse, right? I met my partner and spouse. We met in a place where we both worked. I would never have worked there. And that's a big thing right there, what you're saying right now. And I wasn't necessarily meaning the whole change of occupation or something like that. But, if I had stayed in certain positions, like there was a period of time when I, worked for the VA, if I had stayed this whole time, I'd probably be making a very big salary now. But I didn't like what I
seen. I couldn't continue to see it and feel good about it.
Yeah, you can't let fear of missing out. You can't let recriminations and second guessing yourself ride your butt, because if you do, it'll control you, and then you'll never get anywhere. So I look back in these places on my past.
I followed my heart, and I hit some big bumps along the way. But
in the end, it's worth it.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to feel that or sense it at the time, because it's you're dealing with it on a immediate basis. But usually, and almost always, all things pass. And then when it's passed, and you look back, you go, that was a learning experience, or that was something that that woke me up to this, or that did that. There are things that happen that wouldn't have happened if that negative thing hadn't happened. And sometimes it's through pain. I hate to say that we actually grow more spiritually.
Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes a little suffering is good for us. It's just when it becomes overwhelming that it becomes difficult to deal with.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Oh, really?
I don't know why that is doing that. It shouldn't be doing that, because I'm on. Okay. Sorry about that. That was Dean.
Yeah, that was Dean. I see it. Yeah. I have turned off the thing that allows people to call me if they're not in my contact list, so I no longer get random calls from.
Well, I have the do not disturb thing checked, and so.
Oh yeah, isn't that amazing how it just ignores that?
Yeah, it shouldn't have even rang at all. But anyway, Dean's a good buddy, so I don't mind.
Yeah, Dean's a friend of mine as well.
Yeah, he's. I always look forward to his posts.
Dean is one of the reasons that I met Gail in the first place. So yeah.
Yes. Yes, he's definitely a buddy of mine and yours, and a number of other people as well.
Indeed. Fine fellow.
He's a master poster.
Yes.
And I don't mean the kind of poster. But anyway. Anyway, let's see, where were we? I don't know. Now I lost my train of thought. I don't
know. Just don't ask me any questions about current events or politics, because honestly, I have no comment.
Yeah, and I can understand why.
It's going to get crazier. Yeah.
As soon as somebody says something, then you think that's going to happen, and then it doesn't happen.
I will tell people who who are freaking out over the current events. Everything happens
for a reason.
For a reason, yes, but also everything is within everything that you can't see and observe and determine the state for yourself is in a quantum black box. I know I've spoken about quantum stuff before. Schrodinger's cat is a very famous quantum thought experiment, where the whole idea behind Schrodinger's cat is, if you put a cat, and as I'm going to say as a cat lover, I fucking hate this shit, but if you put a cat in a box with something that will 100% kill it, but is on a random timer to release. Yeah, so say you've got a cat in a box with a random timer that releases cyanide. Right? This was the original thought experiment setup. Nobody ever actually did this to a cat, thank gods. But
often
you put a cat in a box, with something that is guaranteed to kill it, like a cyanide, but it's on a random release, and you don't know at any given moment whether the cat is alive or dead, until you open the box and observe for yourself the state of the cat. That cat is both alive and dead. It is in a state of quantum uncertainty. Everything that you can't observe and determine for yourself is a kind of Schrodinger's box. And this, from the perspective of the people who are in that box, it's not a Schrodinger's box. So what's going on right now with the National Guard and the military in the United States and whatnot, that for those people who are involved, it isn't necessarily a Schrodinger's box. But for those of us who are not involved and are instead observing it from the outside, until the state resolves and we can tell for ourselves what the actual circumstances and the actual history is, it is uncertain. It is a Schrodinger's box. It is a black box in which anything could be going on. And until it comes out and actually resolves and the box is opened, it has different histories. The past is not the past. The past is also a black box. And then the moment we can see something and observe it, the past resolves itself as a thing that was. And from our perspective, it always was. But until we observed it, it could have been anything.
Interesting. You know what? Based on that, this totally different concept, but I've often wondered where this saying came from, and maybe you know. It's like, well, they let the cat out of the bag. Why was the cat in the bag in the first place?
That has to do with cat, like in medieval times when they would transport cats or catch cats, they would put them in bags. And now the thing, when you open a bag, the cat gets out. Trying to put the cat back in the bag is almost impossible.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
that one predates. That one predates Schrodinger's box by a long shot.
Okay. I didn't know if that was a way people killed cats or what, but I didn't know what that meant.
Oh, but they used to carry cats and kittens in bags, right?
Okay.
And if you've ever transported a cat, you might understand why, especially a cat that didn't want to be transported.
I had some relatives that absolutely hated cats, and I never understood that. I don't know how you can hate any animal for that matter, but
me neither. I mean, other than mosquitoes, and even then, I don't hate mosquitoes. I just squish them.
Yeah. I don't have, I don't like mosquitoes, and I don't like flies either. But anyway, they're smarter than you think. Because when you once they know you're trying to kill them, they get real smart and they disappear.
Yep.
But anyway, so I think we'll find, I like to think of the future in terms of we'll be able to communicate with all the animals and even the insects for that matter. And some people
we have a lot of, I know this stuff doesn't really matter to some, but I do sometimes have anecdotes of things that I do off planet and how things are upstairs. On our ship, we have a ship-in system that we call the Can of Whoopass. It is a huge, huge ship. It is a biosphere-sized ship. And it's kind of like our forward operating base. And most of the decking, most of the internal decks, because you can imagine something that is the size of a planet has a lot of internal space. Most of the internal decks are given over to ecology zones. Basically, they're nature preserves. And we have fully functioning biospheres on these nature preserve decks. And that includes things like insects, which might be, harmful if they bite us or whatnot, or animals that might otherwise hunt us or mistake us for prey. And what we use is a set of frequencies that deter animals and insects and stuff like that from acting against somebody who's camping in the nature preserve or who builds a cabin there or whatever, right? So, you're wandering around there and you're not going to get stalked by a cougar unless that's your thing.
Okay. Well, hopefully that wouldn't be.
Those are different cougars. But yeah, or attacked by a bear or bitten by mosquitoes or whatever. They just leave you alone because any being that goes into the ecosystem that isn't part of the ecosystem is flagged with a frequency that basically tells everything to just sort of ignore it or leave it alone.
Well, I've even seen, and this is, probably a much more primitive version. I've seen different devices like that emit a frequency that's either supposed to keep bugs away or it's supposed
mice.
to.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Mice.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if they work. I don't know if they work. But cats are a pretty effective way to keep mice away.
Yeah, the concept behind it is sound. Anybody who's looked into like the work of Royal Rife, for instance.
Yes. He had great work.
The concepts there are sound. Yeah, that's why they did it. Frequency-based healing is very important. And let me tell you, the enemy uses frequency-based attacks.
Yeah.
Everything is frequency and everything is vibration and everything is energy. Like these aren't just
Tesla 369.
Yeah, these aren't just catchphrases. These are real principles that you can use and work with.
Yeah. I think I see a lot more of this happening in the future too. I really do. And I see major changes coming forward in the healthcare field. moving toward the energy medicine, the frequency, like you're speaking of,
Yeah.
away from the pharmaceutical
I had heard that
industries
there were
and doctors
movements within
even.
the former U.S. administration to try to bring some of these hidden
Medbeds.
technologies and stuff
Yes,
out.
yes.
Whether or not that was legitimate information, I can't confirm. I did hear it from multiple sources who were not
Same here.
connected to each other.
Same
So
here.
I'm more inclined to believe that it is actually was the case. And now who knows what'll happen now,
Yeah.
right? Like things in this world are going to get as weird, crazy, and awful as they need to for people to wake the fuck up.
Yeah. Please wake up.
Yeah, I
we don't
can't
have to go
stop
through
this.
as
I
much if you
can't
just wake
yeah.
up.
I can't protect Earth from its karma. Like I cannot shield humanity from the consequences of their own stupidity.
Yeah.
All I can do is shield myself and encourage other people to shield themselves. Things are going to get bad. If people don't wake up, things are going to get bad.
That's
and it is
the problem.
not my responsibility to wake people up. Although, definitely I value the work that you are doing, Gail, and other people are doing,
Thank you.
going out and speaking to people. But it is nobody's responsibility to wake you up. It is your own responsibility to wake the fuck up. If this ain't enough of a rooster crowing in your ear at 4 a.m. for you, it ain't my problem.
Really.
And there are
all we can do is put the information out there. If you're going to reject it or just say, "Oh, she's it's crazy," or a conspiracy theorist, or this, that, or the other thing, and you don't even listen, that's on you.
Yeah, and the people who are listening to this are not the ones I'm talking to. They're not really the target audience for this message, but unfortunately the people who are the target audience of this message are exactly the people who are never going to encounter this message.
I know. But at the same token, we're talking to the people that that would listen to this, but they have people and friends and family members that they want to help enlighten, and it's always a challenge to find ways to do that effectively.
Yeah, do what you can to help all of those within your ripple. Be that stone in the pond, and all of those people who you touch with your ripple, do what you can to help them. But, while we and others are doing everything within our power to prevent kind of massive loss of life, because I've seen the alternate realities in other worlds and timelines where some of the plans that they put in place actually succeeded. And in some circumstances, this involves 6 billion people dying. Obviously, we would like to prevent something like that.
Exactly.
While
I'm
people
so worried
have
about
criticized my actions, people have criticized my actions, and people have decried, accused me of not doing enough or maybe slowing things down. No, I'm an accelerationist. I've been trying to speed it up as much as I can. But I've had people who accuse me of that. But I've also been able to look into other places where I failed. And let me tell you, if they want to live in those places, I would happily shove them there.
Yeah, really.
I'll find a way. They can go
walk
live
a mile in my shoes, baby. Yeah. and when it's always easy to be a critic. It's always easy.
Oh yeah.
And people, I think one of the worst habits in humanity is gossiping and criticizing others.
Well, I'm not immune from that habit either. Sometimes I criticize others, and
don't we all? But I think we need to really look at that and think about that when we're doing that and why we're doing it. Now, if somebody's feeding false information on purpose, that might be something I would criticize,
Yeah.
But
we remain absolutely 100% committed to attempting to reduce casualties as much as possible.
Yes.
But there is a point at which we can no longer shield humanity from its collective responsibility to wake the fuck up and do something on their own. And I think we're rapidly approaching that point. And
yes, what
I would like, but cannot guarantee for myself, let alone for anyone else, what I would like is just to see the people who already get it and are awake shielded, because we shouldn't have to suffer just because of all these other idiots who haven't learned their lessons.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that, because I feel that way myself very, very strongly. It's like, how much longer do we have to put
Yeah, and I
up?
tell you, I won't be particularly forgiving at all if I am forced to undergo immense suffering because the rest of these idiots refuse to wake up and smell the coffee.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I'm coming from too. I
Yeah,
know
and I won't
exactly
be
what you're talking about.
particularly inclined to forgiveness or tolerance or any kind of, you know, respect.
Exactly. Exactly. It's funny, that reminds me of a picture we put up the other night on a show. We were talking, and it was a picture of a monk. He was dressed in a monk thing, and he said, 50% of the time, namaste, and 50% of the time, fuck you. So it balances out. It was talking about balance. I guess you had to be there. I wish I had the picture to present, but it was funny. But it's also true in that, there are nefarious beings out there, and there are people that want suffering to continue and so on, and to make a slave race. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I don't want to be any part of it.
Yeah, and it's true. Like, there is a saying, and like, I'm not Christian, and you know that already. And most of the people who listen to me know that I'm not Christian. I am not Abrahamic. I do not condone
ascribe to
or
most of that
associate with
either.
any of those spiritual paradigms. But there was a saying that is particularly cogent, and that is, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing everyone that he wasn't real. Because there are nasty, evil things out there, and they have made a lot of effort into ensuring that this materialist framework of reality is the predominant narrative of our time, so that everybody thinks that it's not real. And like, this is something that I've brought up many, many times before, is it doesn't matter whether or not you or I believe in entities like Lucifer, or the Black Sun, or any of those things. What matters is what the people who do believe in those things do because of those beliefs.
So true. So very true. Yes.
And like, the average materialist on the street cannot get over the fact that he or she does not believe in the devil. So you get jacked down at the coffee shop, and you say to him, well, the elites, and I don't like calling them elites, the born losers club in society.
Yeah, that's better than elites, huh?
Yeah. The born losers club in society, who thinks they run everything, sacrifice children to Moloch. And he goes, Moloch isn't real. Yeah, therefore it can't be real, right? Well, maybe you don't believe Moloch isn't real. Maybe Moloch isn't real objectively, but that doesn't matter, because people who believe in Moloch are sacrificing children to him.
Where do you think the 8 million children a year go anyway?
Yeah. People are
that's planet-wide.
Surprisingly uninformed about exactly how many people go missing every year, and children from around the world.
It's very
now, a lot of those is
like if we all of a sudden came out and said that there were that many puppies that were being sacrificed, people would be up in arms.
Yeah, and it's also partly because it's never.
What is that? I don't get that.
In order to know that 8 million people go missing a year, or 8 million children go missing a year, you would actually have to go seek out those information sources, because they're public, but they're not made available, right? Nobody is going and reporting on 8 million kids going missing a year.
Right.
In fact, remember back at the beginning of the Syrian crisis, when there were all those migrants that were going to Europe, there were 3 days of news where they talked about how 15,000 migrant children to Europe were unaccounted for. 3 days, exactly 3 days they mentioned this, and then everybody collectively forgot. They just stopped talking about it. Well, where do you think that 15,000 missing migrant children was ever dealt with? No, they disappeared underground somewhere and ended up either rescued or on some monster's plate.
Yeah. And some people just cannot believe that actually exists or happens.
Well, yeah, because we live in a carefully constructed reality that has been designed solely for the purpose of making sure that the majority of people don't believe any of this could happen.
Exactly.
So that they can be kept stupid, fat, and sleeping for as long as possible and never fight back.
And keeping them as busy as possible too, so they don't have time to do any reading or research.
Yep.
That's another part of it, aspect of it as well. It's all very disturbing. And I even now when we tell people to go do research and do some of the homework, what's happened is we did that for a reason, years ago, to get people to look into things themselves. But that's before. Now we have so much censorship that it's even harder to find the truth, because you're going to find, all the stuff that the CDC says or the FDA says, and you cannot trust these agencies.
Yep.
But people have been led to believe they can. And it's been to their own demise as a result in many ways. So
it's getting to the point where free transmission of information is no longer possible.
Right.
And how to get around that or how to defeat that, I don't know. So that we've reached the point then where people are responsible for figuring it out themselves and seeing it themselves and doing something about it themselves, because the freely available information is gone. If you're the kind of person who needs to have it proven to you 6 ways from someday by an authoritative source, well, then I guess you're just going to have to be happy with what you get. And I don't really give a shit if it isn't up to your standards of evidence. Either deal with.
Yeah, that's the thing. How much you got to send somebody to? Because I've run into people like that too, and it's like, oh my God, prove it. Yeah, where's your documentation? Where's your references? Blah 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 blah. Well, I can't take 10 years out of my head and put it in front of you and to have the time for you're just one person for one thing.
Yeah,
or another
and if
thing,
you're going to be that stubborn, it's not, if you're going to be so stubborn that you put yourself into like you put yourself in the path of death, I ain't going to stop you. In fact, I'll eat popcorn.
Yeah, there you go.
I've lost my patience with some of these sons of bitches.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Nobody's responsible for your continued existence but you.
Exactly.
And I've lost any kind of empathy or patience. So, figure it out on yourself. It ain't my job to educate you.
Exactly. It really is.
Don't stand in my way or I will churn you under.
Yeah. And why do you think the very first amendment was freedom of speech?
Yeah, that should tell you
There's a
something
reason
right
why
there.
it was listed number 1.
Mm-hmm. And the second was self-defense.
Exactly. 2 very important things. And isn't it, as universal law, you can always, you have a right to defend yourself.
Yep.
And, well, we have quite a number of things that are going to come forward, I think, by the end of the month and the beginning of next month. And it should be very interesting to see what happens.
Anybody who is thinking 2021 would be less crazy than 2020. That ain't the direction things are going. Just ask Terrence
for a surprise. The storm hasn't even started yet.
Yeah. Well, no, Terrence McKenna was right. His math was wrong, though.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. Oh. Let's see. I think probably one of the important things for people now is to what do you think some important things would be for people right now? To stay calm and centered and
stay centered, ground yourself, center yourself, keep yourself energetically cleaned. If you start finding that you're getting hot under the collar for any reason at all, it's like, it's okay to be emotional, but get a hold of yourself, right? Don't fall for the outrage porn. Don't fall for the rage bait. Stay centered, stay calm, get yourself back into that Zen state as soon as you can, because it's important. It is. We're in the middle of the storm. If you are not centered and balanced and calm, you're going to get knocked over. And you fall into that water, it's anybody's game whether or not you survive, right? So do your best to keep yourself on your surfboard, and if you fall off, get on. get back on.
Get back up. Yeah.
Yeah,
I always
and
use
that's
the horse
nobody's
for that one.
business but yours. It's nobody's
You get
job.
bucked up, you get back on the horse.
Exactly. and don't blame everything else around you. Like, you are the one who's responsible for your own state.
Yep.
You got to really, really reframe the locus of control back into your own court, right? Instead of projecting it outside of yourself. Even the things that are honestly outside of your control, do your best to control what you can in your life and take responsibility for what you're feeling and what you're thinking and what your reactions are to what's going on. That's a big one. And don't freak out because things are going to get scary. You know what? Do what you can, be smart, protect yourself, survive in as much as you can. If you're like me and you're in a little concrete box in a big city and you can't grow your own food, then at least make sure you got a Berkey and some beans and rice, right? Like, do what you can to protect yourself. And don't allow yourself to be killed over something stupid. Like, I had a friend recently who had a medical issue, and going to the doctor was going to cost them $100. And I'm like, is your life worth $100? Because the issue that they were facing was potentially fatal. And they're like, no. And I said, well, then go.
Well, you know what?
Don't worry about that $100. You will find, if you end up owing $100 to the doctor forevermore, at least you're still alive.
Exactly. And you know what? There are some things that you can do now. In fact, let me see if I can find it. Freedoctor.com, I think it is. Maybe I'll put it in the description. A friend sent it to me where you can actually go online and you can go to myfreedoctor.com or freedoctor.com,
right.
Something like that. And you can get a consultation or you can get started and it's free. And then there's frontlinedoctors.com too, where you can actually get hydroxychloroquine, from what I understand.
Yeah. And then a little while later, if things start getting really bad, I'm going to start hitting certain lines of communication to find out if there's somebody who will, sign a certificate of vaccination for me.
Yes, that's always possible too. So that if you need to travel, you can travel. It's just,
it really upsets me because it's a blatant attempt right now to shut down travel on a permanent basis for everybody but the richest, right?
Exactly.
Essentially everybody who isn't part of the Born Loser Club. And honestly, that really ticks me off because I got friends in the United States and me and my partner, we travel in the States whenever we get the chance. And now it's looking like the investments we've made.
Well, I sure hope if you come this way, you stop by and see me.
Oh, of course. Yeah. You'll have to tell me where you are, but don't do that over the radio.
Okay. Yeah. I think most people.
But yeah, I don't know if I'll ever be able to leave the country anymore because of these new laws.
Oh, I know it's getting pretty bad in Canada too.
Yeah. Canada is a bit of a dystopian nightmare right now. Like, I don't know if you guys have heard, but if anybody coming from out of country is immediately put into a concentration camp.
That is scary. That just freaks me out. I just can't even believe they're getting away with this stuff either.
Somewhat comfortable concentration camp, but it is still an internment camp.
Yeah.
And they are constructing actual quarantine camps, which, I've seen enough dystopian fiction to know where this is going.
I don't like that at all. It's like,
no, I don't like it at all, but you have to kind of
when they brought
laugh.
the trains, the trains and the people that got on the trains reminds me of the people lining up for the shot. You just got to know what you're doing and what you're agreeing to and stop trusting people that want to control.
Stop trusting that the state has your best interests in mind. It doesn't. The state has already said that all the people who die of vaccinations are acceptable casualties.
Yeah. I've heard it said casualties of war. They're casualties of war. And I'm going, why isn't our, if our government's in favor of us, why aren't they stopping this? It's very disturbing.
I saw a really, really funny post the other day on No New Normal on Reddit, which is you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to warm someone else up.
That's a good one. I like that. That's a good one. So, so most people need to get as informed as they possibly can, and they're even trying to keep people apart from each other.
It's nobody's business to inform you. You have to do this yourself.
Oh,
and if you've waited this long because the proof that was furnished was not sufficient in your mind, well, I'm sorry, it ain't going to get any better. Shit,
exactly. I'm getting really tired of that sort of thing. Well, where's your proof? Where's your, like I said, how can I present like 10 or 15 years of study in front of you?
By the time I have definitive proof for you, you will already be dead. Which do you prefer? Shit or get off the pot, like my mother always said.
Exactly. Or what is it? Get up and smell the roses or whatever, some of the stuff you got to figure out for yourself and use your higher mind or your higher being to see what's going on. It's your responsibility. We're all responsible for ourselves. And that's where it all begins.
Yep.
So.
And, given that you are a fragment of the divine, a fractal fragment of the divine, and everything else is as well, you can really only do it for you. And when you do it for you, you do it for everything else as well.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that. That's a very important point, I think.
It is. Gaining control over your own self, gaining mastery over your own self is the only way to gain any kind of mastery over the world around you.
Yes. And your unalienable or inalienable rights are very important. And you need to consider them in terms of what you're willing to do by being told what to do by your, the government authorities, your medical authorities, your whatever authorities come into that play. They're not always in your best interests, and you need to look out for yourself that way. And peaceful noncompliance.
Yep.
Is.
Yeah,
And I emphasize peaceful because that's the only way to go. It's the only
way that works, because if you make yourself obnoxious, they'll spin you as stupid, and they'll slander you in the media, and then you will have lost any benefit to your actions. As outside of your own personal benefit. Don't destroy yourself for their benefit. Now, fight smart. Fight
you're
with
just
tools.
Right. You're feeding right into their hands by doing that.
Like the Q shaman. I don't know. Like, I'll say for the record, I don't know what the actual situation is with that dude. But
the guy with the horns, you mean?
Yeah. Whatever his
I've heard so many different things. I don't know what to believe.
Whatever his intent was in doing this clowning around was clearly lost, and he's become nothing more than a symbol of how crazy we are. Right?
Yeah, really.
Fight smart and don't make an ass of yourself. Know when to open your mouth and when not to. The first lesson I learned here, I'm almost like I'm in my 40s now. The first lesson I learned when I was 16 and an idiot and just, coming into my own spiritually was keep my goddamn mouth shut around people who aren't initiated.
Good point. I still have to remind myself of that to this day.
And if I have to talk about it with the uninitiated, put it into concepts and ideas that they understand and can agree with without too much pain and turmoil and
right
heels.
I know, and I have to really. I need to always be aware myself, and when somebody says something and they're intentionally doing it to trigger you.
Yep, because that happens too.
You don't want to feed into that any more than absolutely have to, or get caught off guard with it.
Out there who will try to put you off balance emotionally, and it ain't the end of the world if you lose your shit now and then. Just find it again. That's quick.
Exactly. Yeah, really. That's so true. I can't tell you how many times I've started over as far as, but anyway.
And I make mistakes. Like everybody has issues. Everybody has errors in judgment. None of us is omniscient, and we don't need to be. This ain't
exactly. And all of us have been programmed at some point or another too. And until we recognize some of the programming and to undo it whenever necessary, that's another aspect of it too.
Yep.
But we wish well for everyone. And I hope this I hope this is something that is of benefit to people. I want to encourage everyone to keep the faith and what do you think about the saying, trust the plan?
Whose plan is it anyway? Right? You know what? I trust the plan a lot more if I know whose plan it was and what the plan was. I am not trustful of anything that tells me just to trust.
I know I have the same issue with that. Then there's people that say it's a divine plan. Okay, well, if it's a divine plan, why can't I see it spelled out somewhere?
Christian God, I tell you, it's not a divine plan. That thing was an alien, was an ET conqueror who he picked out one tribe of humans that he set against the other ET conquerors and had proxy wars, right? This goes back to the Babylonian era, the Anunnaki. The thing that became codified as the Christian God was just an Anunnaki conqueror. I'm sorry, this is the truth. People
don't want to hear that. They get very upset.
And I can't speak to the divinity of Jesus Christ, who that's literally not the name of any human being, unless it was afterwards. It's a title. But I can't speak to the divinity of people like Christ or Buddha or whatnot. But that thing that was setting the Israel, like the Hebrew tribes against all the other little local tribes, was just a bad ET having proxy wars with the other bad ETs, like Baal, Hadad, and all those other ETs that were basically taking their little slave populations and pitting them in a chess competition with a lot more blood and rape.
Against each other.
Yeah, sorry. Your books are a lie.
Yeah. It's funny. I said this once and I'll say it again. Not everybody, but many people have gotten to the point where they know that they've been lied to about everything except their religion.
Yeah. And I'm like, you think
doesn't work that way,
possible
people.
That you could have been lied to about 100% everything else, but not this? No. The only way to navigate it is personal gnosis.
Right.
You have to find the truth inside, because it's not going to come to you from the outside. The world is too full of tainted information, right? Exactly. The only way to find it, and even the information you find that's outside, if you want to verify it, the only way to do it is through personal gnosis.
And that's not saying, you have to reject every aspect of it, because certainly there are good things that are said or what have you.
My mom is Christian. Well, she's actually a Messianic Hebrew. My mom is Messianic Hebrew. And when I speak to her, I don't talk about this stuff because there is no way she will hear any of it. So I put it into concepts she can understand. Because yes, 100% there is a creator. And 100% that creator is benevolent. That creator is also all of us. So no man gets position over any others by the creator, right? The creator puts nothing between you and it, because you are it. And it is you. But then so is my desk, so is this glass of water, which I love, so is my cat, so is the poop in the cat box, right? Like everything that exists is the creator.
It's all connected.
But so are you. And once again, going back to the stuff from before, your mastery over yourself is reflected back to you in mastery over the world. Gain mastery over yourself. If you want to have influence in the world around you, if you want to make things happen, if you want to make changes, master yourself first and change yourself first, and only then can you go extend that outside yourself in a productive and non-destructive manner.
That is so true. That is so true. So I guess on that note, unless you have anything else you'd like to add, Tanaath, I think we can probably wrap this up.
Well, I just want to reiterate,
Please
things
do.
are going to get really, really scary out there. Don't let it psych you out. Remain calm. Don't panic. Gain that self-mastery, gain that self-balance and that internal Zen state, and do everything in your power to keep yourself and your loved ones alive. And you know what? Remember that joke about the guy in the flood on the top of his house, and the flood waters are rising, and a guy comes in a dinghy and says, "I got a dinghy, jump in," and the guy says, "Oh no, I'm waiting. God will save me." And then a guy comes a little while later, and it's some rescuers in a boat, and they say, we got a boat, come in here, we'll get you out of here. And the guy said, no, God will save me, you know, I'll be fine. And then some people came with a helicopter, and they're gonna pull him off the roof, and he says, no, I'll be fine, God will save me. And then, you know, the helicopter goes away, and the waters rise, and the guy dies, and he's up there, and he's facing you know, St. Peter, and he's saying, well, you know, why didn't you send me a rescue? I was waiting. And St. Peter says, well, who the heck do you think sent the thingy, the boat, and the helicopter? Right? You know, pay attention to the.
I love this story.
Yeah, it's not my joke. I'm repeating it probably not very well.
It's very important, though. I think I really like that. That's so true.
And this is so again, true. You know, where we can get wisdom even from things that might be wrong at the root. Again, like there's no, you know, you're not going to go stand before St. Peter when you die. If you do, you're in a bubble reality and get the hell out of there as soon as you can. It's not real. But really? Yeah, these things still have wisdom we can take home stuff from, and that is like understand that your interaction with the world around you is an interactive process, and sometimes the universe synchronistically communicates with you. Don't be so fixated on that communication or that rescue or whatever showing up in a specific form. You know, learn to pay attention and be clever. We're going into extremely scary, dangerous times, and the foolish and the incautious and the stubborn will die. Don't be that. Don't be a victim of your own foolishness.
And all things will pass. That's another thing.
Yeah,
Somebody said that to me once in my life, and it really stuck with me because all things do pass. Maybe not as quickly as you might like them to, but they do pass. Yeah. Like and the other important thing, there is no death. Yeah. There's only a transition.
That's another thing. You know, if somebody you know passes away, honor them. They're still they are still, from their perspective, they are still conscious. They are still in existence. They're just not here in this earth in that body with you anymore, but they are still alive.
You can miss
it's just
them,
a transition.
I think that's what it is more than anything. Missing their presence.
I just lost an uncle,
but they're still. It's a transition to another energy.
That said, you know, this ain't this. You know, the purpose of life is to live and to accomplish what you can while you're here. So don't be in a rush to die either.
Exactly. There was someone that you just reminded me of a story someone told me just yesterday about someone who was preparing all her, you know, her way to die and was going to have everything all set up and ready so it wouldn't be any kind of burden on her kids. And then she was going to go get the shot. That's like signing up to die. Why? You know? Yeah,
I've known a few people who got the shot. I haven't known personally anyone who died because of it yet, but it might also.
Well, that's certainly encouraging. Well, quite a few have.
Quite a few have, but nobody I know personally. But I have also been doing types of magic to try to protect those I can.
Yes. It's a chance I wouldn't want to take. And just because it doesn't happen immediately doesn't mean it can't happen down the road. But there are things that you can do. And that's one of the things that is talked about on the video that I did with Judy just the other day, yesterday, and because Paul was on the show and he brought up a friend of his who is older and did the first one and now wanted more information about why she shouldn't do the next one. And what you can do to keep yourself as strong as possible and possibly detox whatever you can. Even though I don't know how you can detox the synthetic aspect of it, but our spirit is very strong too.
It is. But Dr. Mikovich's work is, make sure everybody has links to that because they're gonna shadow ban her too. So
they do. She's censored. I wouldn't dare put it on YouTube, and I try to get it out there, but it gets to be very difficult to get, because you get spread thinner by putting it out on other platforms. The vast majority of subscribers are on YouTube, and YouTube's
I
turning into
use
be
YouTube
pretty
for most of this
useless.
stuff. I really only I use BitChute too.
Yeah, I
But
use I got some
use
shows on
YouTube
BitChute too.
mostly.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're seeing less and less of any interest, in my opinion, on YouTube all the time because they censor so heavily. And you're also finding a lot of the people that I liked for different sources of information are having to create their own website so that they can put their videos up. And I do have a website. It's www.gailofgaia.com, no capitals, one word. And that's where I put all my videos now. And I send people there as much as I can because that's the only platform that, as far as I know, they can't take it down.
And if you put it in and don't put it into a search bar, but you put in the address directly, then you go straight to it and they can't block you, right?
Yeah, because if you try to search, I guarantee I'm shadow banned there. It might not come up. In fact, I
remember back in the early days of the internet, if you wanted to be in a search engine, you had to apply and they would add you manually to the search engine. When Google came out, it revolutionized searching because it searched everything, whether or not it had been indexed or added to the index on its own, right?
It used to be really good.
Well, I remember back in the days of like Avatar, the search engine for, the metaphysical world. If you wanted your website to appear, you would have to add it to Avatar yourself, or somebody else would have to add it to Avatar yourself. And yeah, that changed with Google. Google basically looks for everything, but then they changed Google so that now it's
following an agenda.
Have you used Google search recently? It's insane. If I put anything, all I get is commercial shit.
Yes.
If I just want to find information, all I get is, buy this garbage or stuff about commercial transactions. Google has destroyed the internet.
Yes, they have. And there's a couple other search engines. There's one, Yandex. There's Swiss Cows. There's Bing, like you said.
Yeah.
But that's Microsoft.
Just keep in mind that eventually most of these platforms will be gotten to as well, right? Like nothing is safe and nothing is sacred.
Right.
Be prepared to move at any time. Always have a backup in line. Like I use Discord a lot. I use Skype a lot. At some point, they might start banning people on Discord for having wrongthink. I've seen shadows of this before, in that I've seen people who were banned for just being in a server with people who were problematic and who owned that server, right? Don't ever assume that it's not going to be safe, and always have lines of communication or line of something set up for when it happens.
Right. So we can anticipate that coming up here in not too long of a period of time, we're probably going to have, as long as this isn't a lie, the emergency broadcast system go off. And
well, if that does, send me a text message or something to tell me, because I'm in Canada and I don't get presidential alerts from the United States.
Okay. I was under the impression that it might be planet-wide, but it might not, and I'll definitely send you.
It might not be. If it is, then I guess I'll have that answered for me when it happens. But
yeah, if it isn't, I think they're gonna. I think I've also read. I don't know if it's true. I haven't been able to. There's no way I can verify it, but there is a man who has developed a new internet system that won't have the kind of problems that we're having right now. So with big tech controlling what they'll let us find and what they'll let us read. I mean, it's no different. Digital burning is no different than book burning.
Yep.
And that's what we're dealing with right now. But there's a lot of good indicators, though, that things are changing too, and some good things seem to be happening. And all we can do is watch and control ourselves and our own little world and family and people that we care about, and
do that work to start taking control of your own mind. Develop that ability to have that chat with yourself, whether it's in pictures or words or however else you cogitate.
Very important now, because like you said, we're going to be going through some pretty interesting
and you know what?
times.
There's going to be absolutely nobody patting the foolish and ensuring that they stay alive, because we're all going to be too busy trying to keep ourselves alive, right? So, don't be foolish.
Exactly.
Don't put the burden of keeping you alive on anybody else. That's your burden.
Right. do everything within your power to be prepared for whatever might happen.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And understand that what's going on isn't necessarily just a straightforward a matter of bad people doing bad things. There is kind of a karmic thing going on here where, to an extent, humanity has permitted this to come to pass. And now if we're going to not, like, we have the onus is on us to break it and stop it and get out of it and shut it down. We allowed it to happen.
We allowed it to happen.
We're the only ones who can stop it. And yeah, like, there were mitigating circumstances. Shit happened. Shit was done to us that maybe we didn't understand or didn't agree with when it was going on. Maybe stuff that we didn't fully consent to. But here we are. And we're not going to further ourselves or do ourselves any good or each other any good by, sitting here and whining about how we've been victimized and refusing to take
Exactly. That keeps you in the victimhood.
That does. And refusing to step up and actually do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whose job is it to fix this? It's not my job. It's yours, right? I'm doing what I can. I'm
doing what I can.
Nobody can tell you what to do. You got to figure it out. Step the fuck up, Buttercup.
Yeah, I like that. Step the fuck up, Buttercup. Okay. You're right. You're absolutely right. Stop putting it on everybody else. So, well, do you have anything else?
Nope. That's pretty much it. It's nice to catch up.
Yes, it is. And this was wonderful. I enjoyed it immensely. And it's always wonderful and great to talk to you, Tanaath. Keep up the great work. And are you going to have some book coming out pretty soon?
Yeah, but I'm publishing it under my Meat Space name, so I'm not going to really discuss it because I'd rather not get doxxed or assassinated.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good idea. I didn't think of that, so sorry. But anyway, I'm sure it'll all be good. And
I have to go. My partner has just arrived.
Okay, no problem. No problem. We're pretty well done anyway. We've been talking for quite a while. And again, thank you for your time and energy, and keep up the great work. And I'll be in touch again sometimes. I'll send you a copy when this is done.
Thanks, Gail. Big love.
Big love too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. This is Gail of Gaia. I'm the founder and producer of Free Range. I do my best to bring you the best in guests and information that's very relevant to you today. I'm making this short little clip today in order to ask you to please contribute to the channel. I'm not monetized by YouTube. I don't sell any products, and I don't have Patreon. So I depend upon your contributions. And I know everyone's having a tough time, but even a small amount from a number of people would help tremendously. So thank you. Please contribute. And again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I do need your help. Thank you.
This Free Range Productions program is presented for information purposes only. The opinions expressed may not necessarily reflect the opinions of the hosts, Free Range Productions, its principal supporters, or staff. Viewers are directed to use their own research and discernment with respect to any information presented here.